Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our scholarly examination of Epic Illustrated Magazine. We're up to number 31, August 1985 issue. And we start off with a really nice John Bolton cover. That's what John Bolton does. He doesn't really ever have crappy covers. But it almost seems like there's a story behind this cover, but there's not. But we just see, we can imagine, it's a very narrative painting. This woman is obviously stealing this like rat idol, and all these rat people are chasing her. These disgusting rat mutates. And she's fighting them off with a sword. I don't know why they didn't make it Murata, the she-wolf, who John Bolton draws. But once again, a nice painted cover by John Bolton. Some pretty stuff. Let's get to the meat of this issue. We start off with this collaboration between John J. Muth and Kent Williams. Those guys were friends. Both one of the earliest comic book artists to use full-on painting in their work. John J. Muth did Moonshadow, many other things. We've seen him in Epic Illustrated before, as we have Kent Williams. And John J. Muth wrote the story, but they collaborated on the art. And it's not like a typical comic story where one penciled, one inked. In the overview of contributors, they said that they totally traded off on everything. One panel, Kent Williams would pencil half of it and then ink the other half, and vice versa. And some panels, I think, they would just do solo. So these guys have a lot of similar qualities to their artwork, so it's kind of hard to tell which is which. Though if I had to guess, it seems more Kent Williamsy than Muthian, John J. Muthian, if that's now a word, I guess I just made up. So we see this kid, well, young guy, and he's thinking about his mother. And now we see a flashback. The Seed and the Sower. That's the name of the comic. And I guess this guy, his mom, was a genius. Her name was Anna Hevest. And she always had, subversive politics. Dangerous and subversive politics. That's what people would accuse her of. I guess she was a left-winger. And so in 1950, she moved to Yugoslavia, which is where she was born. And she starts working for the Kremlin, because she's a genius, and she's working on this project called The Seed. It's obviously some kind of weapon to tilt the balance of power into the hands of Russia. And we see him with a rifle hunting someone in the forest. And the other person has a rifle. It's like they're trying to kill each other. And this person shoots his hand off. But then he grabs his gun and shoots the person hunting him. It's his mother. And we realize that he is the seed. He's the weapon she was developing. He's some kind of robot, biomechanical creature. And as he looks down at his dead mother, he just says, "I miss you, mother." But look at this beautiful painted artwork. Just watercolors, really nice. I'm trying to look at the rest of it real quick. I also really just love that logo. It's almost like something Ralph Steadman would do. Yeah, I love the cool colors of it too. The light blues and the kind of silveriness. Good stuff. Here we have the last chapter of Cobalt 60. Artwork by Mark Baudet. Story by Larry Todd. Of course, based on characters created by Vaughn Baudet. So here we have the final chapter. We see, here's Cordwainer Big Eye, one of the aliens. And him and Polonium-210 of the radio people. They start arguing. They kind of realize that both sides were kind of trying to screw each other over. And they're starting to realize that. So then we see the big battle starts. Cobalt 60, who has this mutant crocodile army at his behest, they attack the radio people, the humans. So it's mutants versus humans in a final battle. So that's some nice kind of sci-fi action. And they kill Cobalt 60's beloved Grasser, his mount. So he's just like, oh, you fuckers are dead. And he's just plowing through all these soldiers. Cobalt 60 is a really good soldier. He's a really good fighter. I like this weird sound effects for his gunfire. Stug, stug, dug, dug, punt, punt. I read a lot of Sergeant Rock comics. I don't think I ever saw those sound effects for gunfire. So Cobalt 60 gets onto the alien ship. Pretty nice the way he draws the interiors here. This crazy alien technology. I just love the design of Cobalt 60. He looks so badass. I mean, that's, of course, his father's work. So he sees Polonium 210 and Cordwainer Big Eye are at each other's throats. They're trying to kill each other. He just kills them. Cobalt 60 blows them away. And then he meets that guy. He's like the wizard of these aliens. I don't know, the wise old elder. And he sends this doom marble to kill Cobalt 60. But Cobalt 60 kind of tricks the doom marble. And instead, Strontium 90, the leader of the radio people, it kills all of his soldiers. And it wounds Strontium 90. And Cobalt 60 finishes the job. He says, you killed my father, you killed my mother. You thought you killed me. And he pulls out a big knife. And then we see him come out of the ship with the head of Strontium 90. He says, the reign is over. So the aliens take off. They say good riddance to your miserable planet. Meanwhile, they're gonna take the mask off of Cobalt 60. And to everyone's shock, it looks just like FE56, the beloved ruler before Strontium 90, who Strontium 90 had killed. He killed the king and the queen and took power for himself. And everyone recognizes, like, well, that must be his son, Cobalt 60. So he's basically like, screw you guys, let me go. And they're like, you'll either be king or you'll be shot. And kind of reminiscent of Rorschach in The Watchmen, he's freaking out that they took his mask off. I guess he never takes his mask off. He's kind of psychotic, Cobalt 60. And he's just spitting on him. But they're just like, nah, you're our new king. You gotta be. You're FE56's son, so you're next in line. And they put his mask back on to calm him down. But they have to hog tie him to this makeshift throne to take him back to the city to rule them. And the whole time he's just like, let me go, you fuckers. Kind of like this, kind of a funny ending. He's a king against his will. And then we see Cobalt 60's buddy up here, just watching it all with a quizzical look on his face. It says end of the first half. I don't know if they ever continued this serial anywhere. Oh, this is nice. We got famous European cartoonist Victor de la Fuente, Spanish artist, but I mean he's beloved in France and all over. He's drawn comics for decades at this point. And he was known for his fantasy kind of sword and sorcery type stuff. He had a character named Hackster, which I think Warren Comics reprinted some of those stories. In fact, no, they definitely did, like in Creepy and Eerie. His other main forte in the European market was Westerns. So Archie Goodwin came up with this story, which was like written for Victor de la Fuente. So we start off in this kind of fantasy setting, and this like grand old vizier type guy, he wakes up this guy and says, "Hey, you got to go on another mission." And the guy's not into it. He's like, "Man, I barely healed from the last one." And like, "Well, you got to do it." And the story's called Beyond Legend. So this guy is almost like, he constantly has to fight in these different eras and milieus. He's almost like the eternal champion. So in this one, sometimes he's a samurai, sometimes he's a knight of old, sometimes he's a caveman, but in this one, he's a cowboy. So once again, he's got to go on this weird mission. It's this very cowboy Western milieu. And he shows up at this crappy little shitty town called Buffalo Skull. And it's a nasty town, There's no law and order there. He gets to the town, and he finds out that the whole place is run by this guy named Mr. Brand. And it's like his own personal fiefdom. And that day is tax day. I guess like once a month or something. Everyone's got to come to the saloon and like pay him tribute, basically. Just give up all their money. And we see Mr. Brand here. He's just cruel, heartless, just a bad guy all around. So our hero shows up. And Brand says, "Do I know you?" And the cowboy says, "I think we met before, Brand, a long time ago." And we see one of those other missions where it is like in the Knights of Old Time. And the hero guy is part of this rebel peasant army fighting the evil, castle. And of course it's Brand. So these guys almost have this eternal struggle that never ends in all these different eras and settings. So they agree to have a gunfight. And Brand shoots him in the back before he's even ready. Just grazes him though. So then he says, "Go hang him." He gets the guys who are going to hang him, he gets the best of them and kills them. I just love Victor de la Fuente's art. It's just so classic. And this is like the waning part of his career. I mean, he's a pretty old guy at this point. So he was even better. But I mean, not that I'm complaining. This is just great. Looks great to me. So after escaping his hangman, the gunslinger comes back to confront Brand, and he blows him away and rides off into the sunset. Now we see the epilogue. He's back in that misty fantasy realm. And he's telling his boss, basically, he's just like, "My courage is going. I can't do this anymore." And the vizier guy just says, "Without legends, without heroes, all hope and inspiration die. There must always be new heroes. And you can measure a hero by the strength of the villain he opposes." So he's got to just keep doing this forever, for eternity, I think. He's going to keep fighting Brand in all these different guises and different settings. This is nice. We haven't seen Mark Hempel in a while in Epic. Arise Awake, Year 20. I just love the colors in this and just the design. It looks really good to me. Even that logo, just amazing. And so this poor bastard, he's an astronaut, and he's on a moon of Jupiter. His name's David Wilkins. He's testing a prototype spacesuit. So NASA just left him up there for 20 years. Seems a little harsh. And of course he's going fucking insane. There's a carbon dioxide snow, and he's singing "It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas." He's over the rainbow, this guy. As you would be too. He hasn't seen another person and talked to anyone in 20 years. So the suit won't let him die. It's a technological marvel. And one day he wakes up from a nap and he sees this other astronaut. And he says, hey, there's been a change in the administration at NASA. I'm under orders to bring you home. The ship's right over the hill there. Let's go. And he's just like, I've waited for this day for so long. I'm so happy. And as he's climbing on the spaceship, onto the spaceship, he realizes it's all a delusion. And then he turns around. He sees his wife. And she says, let's go home, David. And he's home for Christmas. His son's there. I like how the colors get all warm. All the other colors are, icy blue and gray. This beautiful reunion. But, obviously, this is another delusion, right? And he built a snowman. I guess it's a surrogate wife. That's how lonely he was. And then he finally realizes, I've cracked. I'm totally gone. But then why fight it? And he just willingly lets himself go and slip into insanity. Because at least his wife is there when he's insane. So it's better than being stuck on this fucking planet. And as he hears his wife talking to him and his son, and the carbon dioxide snow envelops him and buries him. Pretty nice. Here we have another chapter of Toadswort de Amplestone by Tim Conrad. And chapter 6. Man, look at this fucking beautiful art. He didn't have to do this, Tim Conrad. He already has this amazingly drawn golem here. But then he goes to all the extra work to make this amazing, it looks very medieval. This ornamentation on the pillars behind him. I can only imagine how long it takes to draw something like that. Look at these faces. Just so expressive, just really well drawn. Obviously photo referenced, but it's designed really well. So as we saw last issue, there was a golem and 3 soldiers went out to fight the king's army. The mission was a failure. Everyone died except for the golem, who now just is wandering the halls of Amplestone like he's sleepwalking. Bitterbur, the Prince Waxroth's advisor, he's starting to doubt that he should help Waxroth anymore. Waxroth's pretty insane. He was already kind of evil, and now it seems like he's evil and insane. Another great picture of the golem. God, I love the way he draws it. That guy. For all of Tim Conrad's amazing artistry, though, every now and then a little sign that, he's still got a little amateur somewhere in there. Because his development was so fast, as we've seen in Epic. Over the course of 3 years, he's gotten so much better. But this is pretty bad. That little, I don't know, compared to all the other beautifully lit and molded characters. So Bitterbur is definitely just like I'm done with Waxroth. We gotta get rid of that golem. This is a creature of evil, and he's uncontrollable. Waxroth thinks he can control it, but he really can't. So he enlists Toadswort to help him. And they're gonna make a trap right here. Meanwhile, Waxroth is using his necromantic powers to summon even weirder things to fight the king's army. This crazy thing here kind of looks like something H.P. Lovecraft would devise. This fourth dimensional, whatever it is. I love the way it's drawn though. And he goes to the castle wall and sends it out over the land. Meanwhile, Bitterbur's luring the golem into the trap. And at the last second, the golem attacks him. He realizes something's up. God, that drawing. Amazing stuff. But he realizes he's a dead man. Bitterber. So he says, Toadswort, do it. And Toadswort pulls the rope, sending like tons of rock down on the golem's head. But all to no avail. The golem's too strong. He just rises up. I'm kind of bummed on this page that he had to squeeze this panel in, because this is a full page, pin-up panel. I'm annoyed that it's cut off there. I mean, it's really good art in that panel. God, look how well drawn that hand is even. So Waxroth shows up, and he's like, Toadswort, you traitor. All who die will oppose me. I've loosed a pall of plague and sickness. So that monster that he summoned is kind of like a plague monster. It just flies around the countryside, just spreading the plague. He already has it. If you look closely, Waxroth's got boils on his face already. So he's just insane, He's basically doomed everyone, not just the king's army. And he grabs Toadswort and throws him in a dungeon. And we'll find out what happens next issue. Oh, you know what? I forgot to go back after that first story. Let's go back here. Oh, I almost wish I did forget. This is so bad. This is one of the worst things ever been in Epic. This is by Patty Cockrum, doing everything. And she was pretty much like a behind-the-scenes worker at Marvel for decades. She's the wife of Dave Cockrum. Every now and then she might draw a little pinup or something here and there. But for the most part, no, she just did production work. And as we can see, there's a reason why she didn't draw much, because this is pretty bad. So inspired by Wendy Pini's ElfQuest artwork, it's crazy. And I say inspired loosely. It almost looks like she just traces some of Wendy Pini's characters in some of these panels. This is just, I'm not ever going to really get in the story. There's a fairy and his elf friend. It's called the Sword of... It looks like Shirley. It can't be pronounced that way, can it? Shirley? The Sword of Shirley. I'm going to call it that. Schlemiel Schlemazel. Haas and Pfeffer Incorporated. Yeah, look at this Pini-esque stuff. The colors are really bad. The lettering is good, because she probably had to do a lot of lettering, touching up artists' work when they were late or they had to make corrections. But yeah, look at that coloring there, that horrible gradation of color. It's red, white, and blue. It's the French flag. Eesh. Ugh. We do have some hot fairy human interspecies mingling here, but not enough to save the story. Okay, this almost makes up for this. I think it does. We have another Gedeon Plexus adventure by Zoran Venjaka. I really love these, as you've heard me, spout off about. I really like these Gedeon Plexus kind of cyberpunk adventures. And his style is very different in this one. It's more clean. Sometimes it almost reminds you of like well, not really, but Daniel Torres. Those guys who came from the Clean Line School. His first two stories were more grungy, a little more pen work, kind of showing the dinginess of this future. But this is definitely, everything looks sharper. And I like it. It looks good. So we start off, we see this guy kind of looks like a superhero. He's prowling around on the roofs, and he's looking in this woman's window, this punk rock lady. And he lets himself in, and he goes, wow, wow, wow. And he attacks her. And then we see, like, a while later, we just see her foot here, but the bed is drenched in blood. So this guy's not really a superhero, I guess. The story's called Wah Wah Wah. Once again, the colors are by Yves Chagnot. Probably totally butchering that last name. So the cops show up. I guess this is like the 57th person that Captain Butch has killed. That's the name of the the guy. He even signs his handiwork. Your friendly neighbor, Captain Butch. So he's a serial killer. This is the head detective. Has been trying to track him down all this time. He asked the mayor to increase the reward, which the mayor does. So now all these bounty hunters are wanting to get this guy. We're in a bar here. We see the poster with the reward on it. And we're introduced to this bounty hunter woman. And all of a sudden we see Gedeon Plexus, our hero. But he's not being very heroic here. He's fucking blasted off his brain on drugs and booze. And the bouncers are kicking him out because he's just yelling and being a pain in the ass. These android bouncers. So it looks like this bounty hunter woman, she knows him. She's thinking, rotten old Plexus surely deserves this. But I'm going to check on him. Make sure those androids aren't hurting him too bad. Because they got a past. The androids are indeed roughing him up a little too much. So she shoots one. And then knocks the helmet off the other one. I kind of like this little action sequence. And Gedeon takes him out. Shoots the second one. So even though he's all like fucked up, she's just all like, your place or mine, lover. So he takes her home to his place, or I don't know if he's in a position to take her home. She leads him to his apartment, and the next morning he barely remembers what happened, and he's really hungover. And there's a note that says, thanks for nothing. Nobody ever told you that stoned you were a lousy lover. So he's like, ah, shit. So then he gets a call from his boss / kinda girlfriend. And she got information that Captain Butcher's finally slipped up. And he's got a hostage and he's surrounded by police. And she knows the address. The hostage is a 13-year-old son of the major. He's a bigwig in this cyberpunk city. So she's like, get your ass down here. And Gedeon does. So he shows up and she's already there, his boss. And he's making demands, Captain Butcher. And he takes the kid and shows him off and says, if my demands aren't met every 30 minutes, you'll receive a body part of this little shit. Here's the major's father. He's like, do something, Inspector. So Gedeon and his boss go off to get the bounty. I gotta find this woman's name. Sorry. Iskara. She's got a weird name. So the other bounty hunter, the woman who had sex with Gedeon the other night, or attempted to have sex with him, she shows up and they team up. They're like, okay, let's get them together. We'll split the bounty. So they're going to make it up to the higher level where Captain Butcher is. And then when Gedeon Plexus runs up the stairs after his scarer has already run up. And he hears the kid's voice. He says, hey, Mr. Policeman, you can come up now. They're both dead. Captain Butcher's in there. They both shot each other. And we see a scarer here. And we see the boots of Captain Butcher. And when he goes in the room, he realizes that the boots are just decoys. That's all they are, is a pair of boots. And he realizes, oh yeah, I just heard one blast. What the hell's going on? We see one of his previous victims. And from behind him, we see the glove of Captain Butcher holding a gun. And he's like, good guess, but a little too late. Wah, wah, wah. And he turns around to confront him and he says, holy Magoo. Because I don't know if you remember, in this future, Magoo is like a god. He's It's almost like saying Jesus Christ. Or Christ on a crutch or something. So we find out that Iscaria's she's not dead. And she pulls out her knife and throws it at Captain Butcher. And his boss runs up. And she says, "Where's Captain Butcher? What happened to you?" And he's really shaken, Gedeon. And we see Captain Butcher was that 13-year-old son all along. And Gedeon Plexus is just like, I just realized, Chief, I'm getting too old for this. Oh man, I love those Gedeon Plexus stories. Okay, let's get back to where we were. Another fucking advertisement, basically. It's a preview of Black Dragon, a new epic comic series. But it is drawn by John Bolton. So we get to see some nice John Bolton artwork. Always nice to see John Bolton. It's written by Chris Claremont, so it's the same team that does more out of the She-Wolf. It just doesn't look that good. I remember this coming out when I was a teenager, never heard anyone mention reading it or liking it. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's great. But it's written by Chris Claremont, so I doubt it. Here we got the Last Galactus story, chapter 6. John Byrne doing everything except for inks and colors and letters. But he's writing in pencil in it. And whatever. I still don't understand why this is an epic. Yeah. Very dull. And Galactus is floating to the center of the galaxy where, since the first chapter, there's something's going on there. Some cosmic occurrence. It's kind of sad with all the full process color if you look closely. They still got the color registration. You see this big blob of pink around Galactus. And then we see Galactus is floating to this, whatever the hell it is. It says next, the tunnel in the sky. So maybe it's some kind of tunnel. Kind of neat design. That's my favorite page in 6 chapters. So that's it. Epic number 31. We're getting close, guys. I miscalculated. I think there's more than 32 issues of Epic. Or wait, maybe there isn't. It's, yeah, there is. I don't know. It went to something like 34, 35. So we're getting close to the end here. So, hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you join me here next time at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.